is Rajiv Khanna, and I'm the Managing Director of an accredited training provider called Raj Khanna Associates Limited. This is our third recording of how to manage change initiatives within an organization, what approach to take. To help understand this recording, it would be helpful for you to first listen to the recording on how to initiate change, whether we do it in a structured way or whether we do it in a free format way. Our second recording covered the principles of program and project management, where we discuss the principles of project management, cover the delivery of the outputs and the associated capability. And once that is done, the project itself is finished. Then we go using the principles of change management that cover the transition from the old way of working to the new way of working. So whatever the outputs have been delivered by this project needs to be transitioned. And once the transition has taken place, we would start to deliver some benefits. So the principles of project management only cover this element. Principles of change management cover the green element, whereas the principles of program management cover the purple, the green, and the red. Now, it doesn't matter what the initiative is, it's always essential that we ensure that our staff, colleagues transition from the old way. So whatever the new processes that we're using, they need to change. What we're going to do here as part of this presentation is to look at the governance arrangements. So how do we manage that initiative? Can be managed as a business as usual? Does it have to be managed as a project, or does it have to be managed as a program? So you will read some text where it talks about to go from business as usual to a project to a program, you need to look at the level of complexity. What we're going to do as part of this presentation is to just view that in a slightly simpler way. So imagine we're managing something as a program, which means our corporate body, we will see that there's a program board, and within a program board, there are several project boards. Alternatively, there may be a standalone project that reports directly to our corporate management. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, does the extra layer of governance add value? And going through the approach that we are suggesting, you will see that it does add value where you have certain complexity. So imagine, first of all, the simplest kind of situation where you may have business as usual. So you've got a household and it has a bathroom, and there's a problem. There's 4 or 5 people living in that household. And in the morning, they're all rushing to get to work or get to school, and as a result, people are constantly being delayed or not having opportunity to have their breakfast. So what we intend to do is to create a bathroom rota. Now that rota that we create only affects this particular household. It doesn't affect the neighbors, and it doesn't affect anybody else on the street. Therefore, this initiative can be managed as business as usual. Alternatively, we are doing something in the marketing department, and it only affects the marketing department. So the customer that phones the department actually sees nothing different. So they still make a phone call. What happens to that information internally? There is a process that is created. And this process affects the staff in the marketing department only. It doesn't affect IT, doesn't affect any customers, and it doesn't affect the front reception. Therefore, this initiative can also be managed as business as usual. To add that if you do not need additional funding, so you can manage that as part of your departmental budget, it does not involve anybody or anything outside the department, then you can deal with it as business as usual because the level of complexity is low. Alternatively, we have a situation where, as you see, there are 4 houses or 8 houses down on the street, and we're going to put together a play area for the children. Now, as you see, we are working across 4 to 8 houses. So we are not working with people we routinely work with. Therefore, we say it's cross-functional. It's important in a department, so you have pathology. Now, if pathology are going to install a new software, we think, but it's coming out of pathology budget. They don't need money from outside, but it does involve other people because straight away it will involve the information technology department. And each of these 2 departments will have to work together. They do not routinely work with. So we now need to feel about managing this as a project. So what is the main difference? Well, each household has a head of household, or each department has a head of department. Well, when we have our project, we cannot have 4 heads. We need a single head. And as part of our next presentation, we will talk about the roles and responsibilities. Within Prince 2, they talk about the executive. In Agile, they talk about sponsor. But for us, and our recommendation to you would be to have a project owner. So the term is a project owner, not owners. So whether it's in a household where you've got 4 or 5 houses, or whether it's in a department, we need to ensure we clearly understand where does the authority for decision making lie and who is our project owner. In a business as usual, it is important, but remember that role is already established. So if there is a problem when we are delivering the change initiative, we go to the head of department. Within a household, if there's a problem, we go to the relevant head of department or household. So it is important, but it's already established. Whereas in a project, that hasn't been established. So one of the first challenges of managing this initiative as a project, where you're working with people you do not routinely work with, is to identify your project owner, who has the final authority to make that decision, who decides whether it's value for money. Moving further on, we could be doing multiple related areas. So we may work in across an entire street or a village, in which case we should be thinking about having a program board, and within the program board we would have 2 or more project boards. And it's about delegating the level of authority, as we'll see just now. Again, we could be installing an initiative in an organization that affects multiple related organizations or departments. Therefore, we may have a cross-organization program or across multiple organizations. The concepts should be fairly similar. The National Health Service in the United Kingdom is introducing a concept of integrated care systems, where there are multiple organizations working together. Therefore, in our opinion, that should be managed as a program, and underneath it will be several projects. So to recap, as we said, we have the organization's decision-making body, or if it's across multiple organizations, then the sponsoring group will include the chief executives and the chairman of the various organizations. They will identify the program senior responsible owner, and within that program, we would have several projects. Let's relate this to London 12, the Olympics. Now, within the Olympics, we had lots of projects, and therefore the London Olympics should have been, and we believe it was, managed as a program. Because within that, you would have your athletics track, you would have the hockey, the swimming, and the cycling, the velodrome. Now, all of these are related because this is all part of the London 2012. There may be a standalone hockey pitch being put up somewhere in Lucknow in India as a standalone. So that would be a project that the Indian government has initiated with not part of a program. Whereas the Olympics was a program initiated by the UK government with lots of related projects. So had the initiative been managed as a very large project, because one of the challenges for the hockey, if you notice, it was a new style pitch, different color, blue in the middle, pink outside. So the question really was, which color ball do we actually use? Do we use orange, pink, white, or yellow? Now you might think that's such an obvious answer, but remember, television has to be involved because they need to pick it up, and the players and the officials. Had London Olympics been managed as a very large project, then the colour of the hockey ball would have been escalated to the level here because that is your decision-making body. And people within athletics or the cycling are thinking, what's this got to do with us? Therefore, the decision-making would be very, very protracted. A better way to manage this initiative would be at the Olympic level to have a program board and then devolve responsibilities for each of the projects to the project boards. Therefore, the colour of the hockey ball, providing it is within some international guidelines, can be made at the hockey project board and does not need to be escalated. So to summarize, if that initiative is being managed within the business area and it affects nobody outside the business area, then that initiative can be managed as business as usual. We don't have to set up a project board, etc. If we're going to have 2 or 3 departments working together, then it's important that we identify the single project owner from those 3 departments. And if that initiative is going across multiple related areas, then think about having a program board with lots of separate project boards. And it's important, therefore, that each of the project boards are empowered to make decisions within certain boundaries that have been set by the program board. So we hope, using this simple scenario, you understand what some of the authors mean by the level of complexity. Because the more departments you involve, the greater the level of complexity is. Now, regardless of the fact whether we manage that as a program or a project, it's important that we still think about the principles that we would follow. And even if that initiative is being done as part of business as usual, it's still important to understand who is creating the solution, who is testing the solution, who is defining the solution. We still need to understand some of the other elements of any initiative: the vision, the stakeholders, the benefits, etc. So as part of further presentations, we'll take you through what does an organization look like in a project or a program, what kind of attributes we should be thinking about when creating the vision. If there are any comments, questions, or queries, please contact us via our Twitter, an email, or a telephone. We would love to hear from you on to how we can make this presentation better or to provide you with some other examples.